It will take 40,000 years travelling at 38,000 miles per hour before Voyager 1 drifts within 1.7 light-years of the unnamed star AC 793888. It will take 358,000 years for Voyager 2 to approach Sirius. The golden discs aboard Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 contain many photographs and diagrams. The first images are of scientific interest, showing mathematical and physical quantities, our solar system and its planets. There are diagrams of the DNA molecule and human anatomy, and showing aliens, how humans reproduce and give birth to babies. The drawings and diagrams contain two circles in the lower right-hand corner, which represent the hydrogen atom in its two lowest states, with a connecting line and the digit number 1 to indicate that the time interval associated with the transition from one state to the other is to be used as the fundamental time scale to decode the pictures on these video discs. The golden records aboard the Voyager spacecraft are constructed of gold-plated copper and encased in aluminium. It will be very, very obvious to these aliens that our planet, planet Earth, is rich in natural resources. Certainly, it's clear you don't need to be a former Nazi rocket scientist to work out that some of the diagrams, some of the images on those Voyager golden discs have ended up being used as motifs and part of crop circle designs. Since the time that the Pioneer and Voyager probes were sent into space, and especially since the time that all communication was mysteriously lost with two of these probes, there has been a dramatic increase in the number of UFOs seen in the Earth's atmosphere, with UFOs flying out of tunnel-like wormholes. Vast numbers of UFOs being released from flexible, serpent-like membranes above the world's most famous capital cities. And yes, even military personnel claiming that they have seen alien bodies recovered from crashed flying saucers. More alarmingly than all of this, ordinary people all over planet Earth claim that they have been abducted and that genetic tissue was harvested from their bodies by aliens. Some of these people even claim that they have been taken to breeding facilities where government agencies work alongside aliens, breeding a new race of part human and part alien beings. On the 24th of August in 1990, near the town of Lubin in Germany, a chap called Valery Vinogradov filmed a cluster of UFOs. He says that he saw many people looking up at the sky, and it's no wonder, because you see a circular cluster of unidentified flying objects with a object in the center and another object off to the southern tip. And it's a fascinating piece of footage because we see a sphere go towards the cluster and then disappear, with more objects further south. This is obviously very similar to an official NASA photograph taken during the STS-80 flight of the space shuttle, and that took place on the 19th of November 1996. And these images were taken with the Orpheus SPAS remote satellite, which is taken up in the payload bay of the space shuttle and released into space, where it drifts free. And the Orpheus satellite has been designed by DARA, which is the Deutschland German space agency. It looks into the ultraviolet light spectrum, and these images show we're looking down on the Earth's atmosphere, and you can see these UFOs taking up a circular formation, and objects are coming from behind the space shuttle or behind the satellite, and then as they reach the upper atmosphere they light up. And this is very similar to what Valery Vinogradov filmed in Germany. And then we have amateur astronomers posting various clips of UFOs on the lunar surface, and this has come from an amateur astronomer who lives on the Franco-Italian border. And this is a mosaic of small QuickTime movies which have been filmed in black and white from the lunar surface, and in the bottom left-hand corner you see this dark object. It's passing the Eudoxus crater. These craters are very, very large. Most craters on the moon are between 10, 20, 30 kilometers across. I estimate this object to be around 25 kilometers in diameter. Now, it's either an actual object or it's a shadow of an object which is passing over the lunar surface. The distortion that you see is due to atmospheric aberrations. And here we see the object, it stops, it's pausing, and where it was going from left to right, we now see the object pause. These jumps are not being made by the object itself, they're gaps in the actual QuickTime video recording facility of the telescope. And now you can see that the object is heading in a completely different direction. Now, if this was a natural object, say for example an asteroid, which had been caught in the gravitational pull of the moon, then it wouldn't change direction. And now we see it traversing a crater. There's some craters are so large on the moon they have craters inside them. Those Bailey craters are about 30 kilometers across, so we can see that this is a very, very large object. And you can see that it's going now off the northern quadrant of the moon, and there it leaves, or it goes round the horizon, and there is a track of this object's movements. Its trajectory is totally unlike any natural phenomenon. And one has to wonder if in 1991, during the space shuttle flight STS-48, that these objects filmed by NASA astronauts in the upper atmosphere and just outside the atmosphere are also coming from the moon. And 6 years later, during mission STS-80, which had filmed the circular formation of UFOs, there is also ultraviolet footage showing a very large object emerging, coming out of the Earth's atmosphere. And there are also many other objects as well. On the left of the screen there are 3 stationary objects. There are presumably meteorites streaking past, and there from the Earth's atmosphere you see a very, very large object which is possibly 20 kilometers in diameter. And I suspect that this footage was filmed by the Orpheus Spas Dara remote satellite pointing back down onto the Earth's atmosphere. And these objects which you see coming away from the Earth really shouldn't be there. Every object should be captured by the Earth's gravity. And that large object that emerges from the atmosphere is a complete and utter mystery. Now, the moon has been thoroughly mapped, and there's ongoing moon mapping missions with satellites going around the lunar surface taking high-definition photographs. Nearly every couple of years there's a mission like that. And what I've done here is I've got a moon atlas which has been stitched. All these individual JPEG images from various lunar surveying missions have been stitched together. And the near face of the moon never changes as far as our point of view is on planet Earth. The moon does not rotate, and so there's always this hidden dark side of the moon. And in this animation we can go from pole to pole, and as each year goes by, the quality of the images which we get from the lunar surface are increasing and increasing and increasing. It's interesting that I've never seen any lunar survey images which have been sharp enough detail to show any of the landing sites of the Apollo missions. What French astronomers have done is they've mapped these high-res images from the NASA archive onto a three-dimensional spherical model of the moon. This is the near side of the moon with all of its so-called seas. These are where liquid lava 100 million years ago leaked into large crater areas or depressed areas, and many of these seas are fairly level and featureless. But as we go onto the dark side of the moon, this is the coming around now, this is the side of the moon which we never really see. You can see that there's quite a difference in the topography and the geography of the dark side of the moon. There's not so many of these flat areas which are shown up in this animation as being dark. And let's face it, it's a very large object, and if aliens were to come to Earth, it would be a very, very useful stopping off place, because, as I said earlier, the near side of the moon is always the same side of the moon which we see from Earth. This animation of the moon does not rotate, so we never see the dark side of the moon, and therefore it could potentially be a very useful place for extraterrestrials to have a landing stage and stop off before they enter the Earth's atmosphere. And I believe that the space shuttle and the Dara Orpheus satellites and other equipment are being used to track UFOs which are visiting the atmosphere and planet Earth as they come from the moon.
We have an unidentified flying object